A very good afternoon, Zena afternoon to all of you. This is Vinay Pandey attending this event from Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. It gives me immense pleasure to have you all gathered here this evening at this esteemed virtual forum organized by our own Zena Global Family Foundation. All I can see is that this platform has been all set with the presence of intellectuals and professionals from diverse areas of excellence, and it clearly reflects that this evening is going to be full of, if I may play with words, infoliage and enrich faction. Well, on an opening note, I welcome and greet all of you for having been able to be online in this stipulated slot despite your various other important professional engagements. I shall just highlight the topic of the day, that is lawful good. Lawful is more about order as opposed to chaos than actual laws. Lawful just means you like things to be ordered in some fashion. That order may be laws, a particular set of rules, an oath, a promise, or maybe the teachings of a wise man. Generally speaking, good can be described as the needs of the many outweighs the needs of the few or the one. In other words, a good person will do what he can to promote any kind and any number of people, perhaps even at his own costs. Honor, codes, routines, reliability, tradition, truth, taking orders, submission to command, etc. All of these are of great value to a lawful person, for they believe that order is an integral part of a productive society and lifestyle. A lawful good person is good in the traditional sense that they believe in order codes of honor, truth, honesty, and most importantly, discipline. A lawful good person should be much disciplined and should leverage that training and resolve to further their good goals. If there is no conflict with an oath or code or promise or doctrine, a lawful character is likely to follow laws even while in foreign lands because the laws help preserve order. Lawful good characters believe in justice. If the laws of the land are unjust, resulting in not good ends, they are not obliged to follow them. They are not given a free hand to destroy the hierarchies enforcing the unjust laws. However, they would be restricted to reforming them as they see hierarchies as the optimally good delivery system. And hence, a lawful good person can get very upset about an unjust law. So, gentlemen, we are here today to witness a very mature and high standard of a session with a series of lessons and morals and the outcomes of following them or otherwise. The attempted takeaways out of this event would be to develop righteousness and moralistic values in the individuals by setting our own examples in the society we live in. I shall now quickly let you know as to how this event is going to unfold as per the plan. So firstly, we will have a welcome and keynote address by Mr. Naveen Kumar Jaggi. Then we will have, he will have the detailed and elaborate talk on the topic of the day. After that, we will have with us Mr. Ratan Nath, who will be the interactive discussion moderator for the day. And that will be followed by vote of thanks by Ms. Reena Prakash Tyagi. The event will be wrapped up with a Zena anthem as usual. So that will be the flow of the program today.
Beginning with Atul
Yes,
Bhaiya's
yes,
Pegando
yes,
Road.
yes, yes, sir. Now I shall let you know something about our guest, Mr. Atul Sinha sir. We are very privileged to have Dr. Atul Sinha with us here today. who has very kindly consented to be the pregonator of this event. Dr. Sinha is the founding trustee of Zena Global Family Foundation. Befitting in his first name, Dr. Sinha is really Atulya, to say that his credentials are immeasurable. Graduated from SRCC Delhi University and an MBA from XLRI, Jamshedpur, Dr. Sinha had extremely wide exposure in corporate sector, spanning over 32 years, and ultimately holding the fort as the VP at Britannia India. In his second inning, he owns a brand design company which works for various brands of repute. His keen interest in the Indic values inspired him to acquire a doctoral degree in yoga. So may I now request Dr. Sinha to bless us with his words and take this event to a divine start. Over to Dr. Sinha.
Thank you, Vinayji. Thank you for your very kind words and your lovely, very well written, well thought out introduction to the subject.
Thank you.
And when I saw this subject, I was very intrigued because it is extremely topical, and I think I will go into it and tell you why I think it is topical. So, firstly, a lawful character is defined as someone who acts like a good person is expected to do. And he or she combines the commitment to oppose evil and has the discipline and the resolve to fight relentlessly. He or she tells the truth, keeps integrity, helps others, and speaks up against injustice, hates to see guilty go unpunished. So it's a very, very strong definition of what a lawful character is. But I would like to, I don't know what Mr. Jaggi will talk about. I'm sure he'll elaborate on this. But I would like to put it in a context. And the context is that the context really is the problem of ethics in our our social lives. And so this is one, perhaps one way to do something about the problem of ethics. So I just want to put a few words on what the problem of ethics is at its root, at its being. What is the problem of ethics? And I hope that in the course of today's discussions, I will have some insights from the very eminent speakers on how we can get around these problems. So the problem of ethics in social decisions. Social decisions are governmental decisions, organizational decisions, corporate decisions. These are social decisions. And this is opposed to personal decisions, like the decision which I make on my own in my own life or anybody else makes in their own lives. So the problem, I think, is social decisions have received very special attention since the turn of this millennium. And what has driven it? One is the economic crisis, which hit us in 2008. The second is the environmental issue. This whole global warming has taken center stage, and it is really an issue of ethics that we are exploiting the environment for our very selfish needs. Third is linked to the economic crisis, this whole income disparity, uh, inequality of income came into focus. And this has put questions around capitalism. So there is no doubt that capitalism has pulled a huge number of people out of poverty and given them a good standard of living. But the hard side of capitalism is being really questioned, and people all over the world are now struggling with what is an alternative? How can we reform capitalism? Socialism is dead. By socialism I mean communism, Marxism is dead. So what can we do about that? And the last thing is there is a general rise in human consciousness. The human beings are saying that we should live less stressed out lives. We should have a better balance in our lives. we should be kind to others. So this is, all these factors are bringing a focus back on ethics like never before in our lifetime. So it is important to get into the roots of ethics. So let me start with the Western ethical theories. And there are two broad theories. One theories is what is called consequential theories, and one theory is called the non-consequential theories of ethics. So consequential theories, they pin the ethics on the consequences of action and not on the actions themselves. So, for example, there are two kinds of consequential theories. One is, it says that if somebody promotes his or her own self-interest successfully, then that decision is ethical, even if it has some adverse impact on others. So that is one extreme consequential ethical theory. And the other is that what Vinay ji, you mentioned, the greatest good of all. Some decision which promotes the greatest good of all is considered ethical. But this also is layered, and I'll get into that. It's not so simple. It's not so black and white. There are problems with this theory also, and we'll come to that. The non-consequential theories pin ethics on the actions themselves. That means what was the intention, what means were used, what were the ends. So, and was there a distinction between right and wrong? So this bridges the gap between individual ethics and social ethics. So in our individual lives, we have, most of us have a good sense of what is right and wrong, and we try to do more right things than wrong things. So this theory does that. But the thing to note is that in the Western theory, there's no agreement on what ethics is. It could be this, it could be that. They're struggling, And I'll compare it to the dharmic system to make a contrast as I continue. So now, at the root of lack of ethics in social decisions, as I said, social decisions are governmental decisions, organizational decisions, and corporate decisions. So at the root of the lack of ethics in social decisions is that the decision is attributed to the organization and not the individual making it. So if in a personal life I take some action, straight away it's attributed to me. So I am an ethical person or a non-ethical person. I am an evil person or a good person. But in the case of an organization, it's an organization which has taken the decision, not the individuals involved in the organization, unless there's one qualification, unless there's a breach of law. So there's a law of any country. If you break that law, then of course the individual will be impacted. All right, but otherwise, if you're in consonance with the law, you're not broken any law, then the decision is attributable to the organization and not the individual. This implies that the individual need not apply common morality to his or her organizational decision making. So if that is the case, then what is driving organizational decisions? So it is evaluated solely by the decision's ability to achieve quantifiable objectives. So for example, profits and growth, for instance, something which you can quantify. I've brought the cost down, I have grown, I have made profits, my GDP has grown, I've built so many bridges and roads, those kind of things, right? My illiteracy rate has gone up, my human whatever index has gone up. So it's all quantifiable goals, and my decision is evaluated on how well I met those quantifiable goals. And since ethics is not an empirical factor, it is excluded, unless again you break the law. So this is the difficulty of fitting ethics into social decision. And why is this? Why is this construct being used? Because we are guided by utilitarian ideas developed in the West and made normative in the world. And what is the utilitarian idea? The utilitarian idea is that the good of the whole system supersedes the good of the individual. And that is at the root of reconciling social decisions and personal morality. And this conflict is rationalized by asserting that individual compliance with social decision is essential for the stability of the whole system, while individual defiance contributes to system instability. Many of us would have faced this in our lives when taking corporate decisions. If you're not breaking the law, it is fine. But for example, from where I came from in the corporate thing, if you're making a claim which is exaggerated in advertising for a product, but it's not breaking the law, it is fine. But you have gone against your own personal morality of making an exaggerated claim, right? But you have to make it because it achieves the organization objectives of growth and profit, right? So, and if you defy that, then you are contributing system instability. And the consequence of the utilitarian system is the individual gets alienated because he or she is not acting per his conscience. There's dehumanization because you are working in an environment which is unethical, and there's a loss of relationship with ethics. So this is at the very root of the current problem we face of ethics in social decisions. And I'm hoping that the speakers today will, somehow in their own way, bring out how do we get out of this problem. What I have tried to do is I have tried to frame what the root of the problem is. As a contrast, the dharmic system, which is the ancient Indian system of ethics, is totally different. So in the Western system, there is no underlying mega thing which says this is what drives ethics. The utilitarian system is what driving social decisions. We saw it has not, it has difficulty in including ethics in decision making. But in the dharmic system, the basis of ethics is that we are spiritual beings, and that in our essence, we are all one. We are a universal consciousness. The whole universe is one being with many hands and many legs and many mouths. So if that is the conception of life, conception of existence, then the ethical implication of that is very profound. And the ethical implication of that is that if I were to hurt Vinay, I'm hurting myself. Because in essence, we are all one. And this is the neve, this is the foundation of ethics in the Indian system. And Dharma Shastra worked this thought out into a very fine system of individual and group responsibilities and laid it out in the ashrama and the varna systems. So at different stages of your life, what is your responsibility? As a student, what's your responsibility? As a householder, what's your responsibility? As a vanaprastha, what's your responsibility? And as a sannyasi, what's your responsibility? And as a shudra, what is your responsibility? As a brahmin, what's your responsibility? As a kshatri, what's your responsibility? As a vaishya, what's your responsibility? And if for everything, the responsibility was the good of the whole society, right? So, this fitting of ethics with this kind of a foundation was much easier, but it had a problem. So everything has a problem. And the problem of this system was dharma sankat. So whenever you face a decision, there was dharma sankat. And our stories are replete with dharma sankat. Arjuna's dharma sankat. Everybody had a dharma sankat. And if you're ready to analyze dharma sankat, there are three broad categories of conflict. One conflict is ethics versus ethics, higher ethics versus lower ethics. So, for example, I'm a doctor and I examine a patient who is maybe 75 years old, and I discover that he has got terminal cancer. I'm taking an extreme example. So then I am faced with a dharam sankat. Should I tell the patient the truth? And telling the truth is ethics. Telling a lie is unethical. But if I tell the truth, then he might die immediately. If I tell him a lie, then he might live for another 5 years. So what do I do? I'm not saying what he should do, the doctor should do, but I'm saying this is a dharam sankat. Whether he does one or the other, he has broken some ethical law, but he has to make a choice. All right. The second one is duty versus ethics. Duty versus duty. This is exemplified by the conflict of duty towards parents versus duty towards like a soldier. He's he's in the front in Kashmir fighting terrorists, and he gets news that his father is very unwell. What should he do? Should he continue to fight in Kashmir, or should he come and look after his parents? So he has a duty towards his parents, he has a duty towards the country. What should he choose? So again, this is a dharma sankat. And the third dharma sankat is duty versus ethics, which is the great Mr. Arjuna. वो बोले हम नहीं लड़ेंगे क्योंकि दूसरे साइड में मेरे दादा हैं, ये हैं, वो हैं, कैसे लड़ सकते हैं? ये एथिक्स नहीं है. तो उसका ड्यूटी था कि लड़ना है. अब वो क्या डिसाइड करेगा? So dharma sankat. So ethics is not a very simple issue, whether you look at it from the Western lens or from a dharmic lens. It's not an issue, but at the same time, it's a problem which has come to the fore like never before. It's a problem with everybody is talking about, young and old, about ethics, and everybody has their own points of view and all that. And I'm hoping that in this talk we will get somewhere. I'm sure we won't solve the problem, but we'll get some very good learned perspective on the issue of ethics and how a lawful character can contribute towards sorting it out. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. The way you have related, the modern justice system and ethics system and the ancient one is really marvelous. It was really enriching. And especially when you talked about, Dharam Sankat, that was really very fantastic. Thank you, Zena sir. Now we shall have the vision video played right here. So I will just share the screen.
Yeah.
Zena World Vision Document. We're a family bringing joy, happiness, prosperity in our lives and around by nurturing, encouraging, catalyzing, enabling 360-degree well-being in physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and economic dimensions. Our vision: abundance of joy, happiness, care, and prosperity for all. Our mission: we strive for alleviating pain, suffering, and poverty, encouraging unshackled-free thoughts, enabling dignified jobs and livelihood, nurturing close family bonding, seeking joy and happiness in the impact caused. Our values: passion, work with passion and from heart. Our values: humility, learning attitude, mutual respect, and open to listening to others. Our values: integrity, sincere, honest, and ethical principles. Our values, empathy, understand and feel others as your own. Our values, humanity, have compassion, brotherhood, fellow feeling, and kindness. Our values, joy, work that brings joy and value, diversity and inclusion. Our character, trust, belief, faith, and confidence in self and in others, from where love and compassion emanate. Our character, virtue, high moral values, patience, consideration, trustworthiness, and forgiveness. Our character, transparency, honesty, openness, and not guarded. Thank you.
So that was Zena Vision video. Let me now introduce our session moderator of the day, Mr. Naveen Kumar Jaggi. Mr. Naveen Kumar Jaggi, a celebrated legend, having colorful 50 years of serving the cause of law and legalities, is a lifetime achiever in all his endeavors. And why be not? He is the son of none other than late advocate Bashant Kumar Jaggi, the implanter of legal practice in India way back in 1923, the architect of Indian Motor Vehicle Act and author of several other books of repute. An alumni of St. Columbus High School, New Delhi, he has a master's degree in law from University of Delhi. Advocate Jaggi has rendered his services at extremely well-heeled and affluent higher positions with government, universities, academies, councils, and societies. You have the honor of being the chief patron, associate member, and advisor for not less than 30 national and international organizations, of which few are founded and run by yourself. Mr. Jaggi is a highly decorated law professional, having many laurels to his credit, the most prestigious being the Bharatiya Shiromani Puraskar by the Governor of Gujarat, His Excellency Shri Naval Kishore Sharma in year 2005.
I will mute. It's not
He-
this.
He is the recipient.
अंचल गगरी छलकट मतलब
अरे नहीं नहीं ऐसा नहीं है.
That's not. Thank you very much. That's more than enough.
ठीक है सर.
ये
Let
जरूर
us.
कभी कभी मिलेंगे तो आप मेरी वाइफ धर्म पत्नी को ये बताते ना मेरी
अच्छा अच्छा. ठीक है, तो अब सर से हम सुने आज के टॉपिक के बारे में एलाबोरेट में.
It's a great honor to be here. The genius, the superior intellectual Mr. Rajiva Anand has been able to act as a catalyst uniting different thought processes, different people. And he's been able to get within his fold giants, stalwarts. And amongst them has landed a pygmy like me. But what really impressed me was the vision, the far-reaching vision, the sagacity, the single-minded focus in spite of stupendous hurdles in achieving what he wanted. And that too, without ever coming in the forefront. He says, Bhaiya charan स्पर्श तो मैं आपके करना चाहता हूँ, because you are verily a genius who's created a utopian world for all of us. So Jivanand, I bow before you. You deserve all the accolades, all the encomiums, all the laurels. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. What really impressed me the moment I heard when Mr. Jivanand spoke of the concept of lawful good, put it up there, lawful good, it immediately caught my attention. It was something that I was striving, I was looking for a place where I could vent my feelings, where I could openly say, like, what law is all about. The number of law graduates being churned out, like in factories in the last decade or so, is pathetically so poor in knowledge, devoid of any even the basic sense of ethics, morality, integrity. They have no idea what law is all about. They do not even know that the moment they don the black coat, they become a separate entity and they're a class apart. I cannot add to what Mr. Sinha, the distinguished Mr. Sinha said. I cannot add. That aspect was so wonderfully described and narrated by him. So I should say thank you and depart. But if Mr. Sinha allows me, grants me the permission, I'd like to speak of lawful good from the point of view of law, something that has been in my psyche and has been in me for years, which I would really like to narrate from this platform. According to what I thought when Mr. Jivanand talked about lawful good, I realized that lawful good is the philosophy that goodness is best achieved through law and order. Lawful good is the philosophy that goodness is best achieved through law and order. It's a philosophy of altruistic collectivism. The philosophy holds good even where an individual must put the needs of the group ahead of his own individual desires. Mr. Sinha so descriptively and so beautifully worded, narrated the second aspect of it. Sir, allow me to speak of the first from the legal point of view. Lawful good is the philosophy that goodness is best achieved through law and order. I take myself back. And what I'm going to say is probably going to shock a few as to what law is all about and what law is meant and how law is to be interpreted, implemented, executed. It takes me back to my first class when I started teaching at the Faculty of Law, Delhi University, 22nd of October, 1975. I was given a difficult subject by the professor trying to rag me. He thought it was difficult, but I found it the easiest subject. That was in those days called legal history. It's got a different nomenclature now. And when I stood up, I did not know that two professors had intentionally bunked the classes and gone on furlough. So what happened, I was struck with the students of 3 classes. And the section that was given to me was the most difficult. It consisted of rowdies, not as these 3 brilliant interns that I have here, these are brilliant guys, but they were really rowdies, scoundrels, vagabonds. And it was a test. Needless to say, I'm very proud of a bad thing, that I put them to shame because none of them knew anything about law in Delhi University, which was at its prime at that time, about 45 years, 50 years back. I started with the question, please tell me the first law, the first violation, the first offense, the first conspiracy, the first punishment, and the first sentence. Can you believe it, sir? They were not as brilliant as all of you here. None of them knew what it was. I gave them I insinuated a few hints, but nobody knew. Now these three wise men here, not as wise as the one of Lord Jesus Christ, but still wiser than them also, are pondering here as to whether I'm going to question them. I said, let's go back in point of time. There has to be the first law. There has to be the first offense, first violation, first punishment, first conspiracy, first sentence. When they failed, I started speaking. That class of rowdies, it's crystal clear, imbibed in my mind. I had them pin drop silent. Old men like to brag, I'm bragging, but it gives me that intrinsic thrill. I told them, let's take the biblical concept. God created earth and he made a paradise. And on the last day, seventh day, the Sabbath, he rested. And on God's green earth, paradise, he created a semblance of his own being, a man called Adam. And God, with all his wisdom then, when he found that Adam was moving around all alone, enjoying the glory, the peace, the euphemism, the brilliance, the happiness, ecstasy of the paradise, don't know what happened to God. He lost it. And he said, let me make Adam happy by giving him a partner. So out of Adam's rib, he created a woman. And lo and behold, that is when the whole world collapsed and it was Pandora's box and everything happened. When God created Eve, that hunky-dory world of paradise started going upside down. Then God made another mistake. He called Adam and he said, comest thou here, Adam? Thou shalt partake of every fruit, everything on this God, on paradise, but thou shalt not partake of that yonder fruit, that apple on that yonder tree. Now Adam was perplexed. He was bewildered. Why does God want me not to eat that fruit, that particular apple? Adam thought, and he thought, if I eat this fruit, maybe I'll become more powerful than God himself, God Almighty himself. But then came a doubt or misgiving in his mind. What if it is poison and I die? So Adam, from a good man, started thinking evilly. He said, let me share this knowledge with Eve. So Adam goes and talks to Eve and he says, God has said, do anything that you want, but thou shalt not partake of that yonder apple on that yonder tree. Now Eve started thinking, what is this? If I eat, I'll become more powerful than Adam. Adam acts like he's my Lord and Master, but I'm the wife. I have to be obedient to him. I have to serve him. If I eat the apple, maybe I'm more powerful than him. And again, the doubt came in her mind, what if it's poison? So Eve thought and thought and thought, and she conceived of a conspiracy. She said, I will tell Adam, you go and eat that apple, but I'll let him have a small bite. If it is poisonous and he dies, then I shall not eat the rest. When he's about to fall sick, I'll stop him from eating further. But if his strength grows stupendously, tremendously, then I shall snatch the apple from him and eat the rest. First conspiracy. Then she prevailed upon Adam, and this is forcing, coercion, undue influence, all those ingredients of law coming in. Ultimately, to cut the biblical story, historicity short, Adam went and plucked that apple. And then God appeared in all his wrath and anger. And he said, "Comest thou here, Adam? I had commanded you not to eat that apple. Thou hast done that. Now what shall be thy punishment?" And Adam said, "I am not guilty. Self-defense. I was prevailed upon under the undue influence of Eve. She forced me, she coerced me, she pressurized me to eat the apple. And that is why I plucked. I am not guilty. Eve is guilty. She coerced me." And then God says, "Thou hast sinned. You violated my law, my commandments. Thou shalt be punished." And Adam and Eve were packed away from paradise. Now this is, according to biblical concept, this incident, this story, this narration, this epic, this mythology covers every aspect. No offense, no part of any litigation is not covered by this. First law, thou shalt not eat. First commandment violated, he eats. Conspiracy, coercion, undue influence, pressure, self-defense, punishment, sentence. That is how we started the law. And before I go further, have you ever wondered why do we call the judges, my lord? Mr. Sinha, can I have it from you, Mr. Pandey? Why do we call judges lords?
Logic in an artist.
I'll give you. Because earlier, only those people of the landed gentry, landlords, landed gentry, or people belonging to the affluent class, the zamindars, the rich people, only they would practice law. Because law is a noble profession, or was a noble profession, and it was written that thou shalt not ever solicit. In 50 years of practice and 98 years of, we have never ever solicited, never ever solicited. The law is that. I'm talking of that law. As a lawyer, you're something totally different. You are not to solicit. That is why we have lawyers have a gown. Whenever a lawyer would come back after arguing his case in the court, he would come and hang his gown. The client, out of his own gratitude, would put whatever penny, guinea, pound, dinar, gold coin, rupee, anything in that pouch. There's a pouch behind the gown. A lawyer was never expected to ask for money. When I started my practice, we were expected to live 6-7 years back home. But I'm talking of antiquity now. I'll come to the present day. That was what is law, and that is what law should be. And that is why, Mr. Pandey and Mr. Sinha, do you know the country that has given the law to the world? It never had a Supreme Court till 1st of October 2009. Great Britain, England never had a High Court, never had a Supreme Court. It was only on 1st October 2009 that they set up the Supreme Court of England and Wales and Supreme Court of United Kingdom. It was always House of Lords. When two whites fought there, it was House of Lords. When it was native and a white, or two natives, or I mean the colonies under the British Empire, then it was called Privy Council. So House of Lords, the judges lords. That the word lords come from there because it started. It had to be people, because you are not expected to live. If you're not expected to live off your legal practice, then the possibility of being corrupt, the possibility of being influenced or being approached by the opposite party or doing something unethical, like Mr. Sinha so beautifully stressed on, ethics. Then the possibility of being acting immorally, unethically, without integrity if not obliterated, at least reduced to a considerable extent. Not that people of affluence were not corrupt or did not, but it was minimal as compared to now beyond the overhead. That is it. I now please allow me to take you to what the lawyers have. If over the years, I've had over 4,600 interns over the large number of years. I think hardly 3 of them have been able to say that lawyers also have an oath like the doctors have the Hippocratic Oath. Mr. Sinha, sir, you come from Shri Ram College of Commerce, as does Mr. Rajiv Anand, the best commerce college. Do you know what is the lawyer's oath? Mr. Pandey? I can't see Ms. Reena Prakash Tyagi or Mr.
No, sir, I don't know.
You know. Please allow me to share this with you on the larger screen. Lawyers have
Please,
an
sir.
oath.
Please, sir.
Can you put me up?
You are on mute, sir.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
It's okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Show them the screen. Oh, that's what. This is the earliest. This is the earliest.
You have to log out from one device, any one device. There is interference. Any one device you have to log out.
So we are doing that, sir. Where's the joker gone here? You can't do it. Okay. So can you see this on the screen?
Your full face is not coming.
No, not
and,
my face, sir. The oath. Oh.
No, sir, it has to come down or the camera has to go up.
Camera should go up.
We cannot see the oath.
Yeah. Camera should be.
Okay. You put the oath so that I can read it. Okay. Can you see me now? Can you see me? My oath.
We can see you, but not the oath.
This is the oath. Please allow me to read it. The earliest oath found in the Red Book of the Exchequer. The oath of attorneys in the office of police. You shall do no falsehood, nor consent to any to be done in the office of police of this court, where you are admitted an attorney. And if you shall know of any to be done, you shall give knowledge thereof to the Lord Chief Baron or other his brethren, that it may be reformed. You shall delay no man for lucre gain or malice. You shall increase no fee, but you shall be contented with the old fee accustomed. And further, you shall use yourself in the office of attorney in the said office of police in this court according to your best learning and discretion. So help you God. So what stands out here, sir, is you will not allow any wrong to be done if you're an attorney. And if you know of any wrong to be done, the knowledge of the Lord Chief Baron, the Lord Chief Justice, later became Lord Chancellor, the Lord Chief Justice. And what is very important is you shall delay no man for lucre gain. If somebody is unable to pay your fee or unable to pay you, you shall not delay his case. You will not prolong his case. And you shall increase no fee, but you shall be contented with the old fee custom. Once you have agreed upon a fee,
thou shalt not enhance it, not find ways and means is a separate application. There's this, not charge extra. And further, you shall use yourself in the office of attorney, in the said office of police, according to your best learning, to your best knowledge and discretion. So help you God. You are acting to the best of your ability. Now, I'll come later to that, the law graduates being churned out. They have no learning, they have no, where is the question of using the discretion? A law degree graduate, law degree does not become a lawyer. A lawyer has to be something very different. Now, after this, we have another, show me the next one. We have what is called, once you have this is the lawyer's prayer. Can you believe it? This for centuries. The lawyer's prayer says, am I audible, sir?
Audio is fine, sir. Only problem is with video. I think your picture is cutting.
Now,
If you can slightly move to your left, sir.
okay, no.
Yes, has come. Yeah, improving. Yes.
This is the lawyer's prayer. Lord, grant that I may be able in argument. God, give me the wisdom that I'm competent while arguing my client's case, that I may be able in argument, accurate in analysis, that I'm able to decipher the problem accurately, correctly in the ends of justice. Strict in study. I study. I don't just copy here, paste here, everything. I strict in my study. I'm conscientious in my study. Candid with clients. I'm honest with my clients and honest with adversaries also. I have to mete out justice. I'm candid with my clients, honest with my clients, and honest with adversaries. Sit with me at my desk and listen with me to my client's plaints. God, sit with me when I'm at my desk. Listen with me to my client's plaints. Read with me in my library. God, help me read me when I'm reading. And stand beside me in court. And stand beside me in court so that today I shall not, in order to win a point, lose my soul. In order to win a point, lose my soul. So here, Mr. Sinha, the ethics that you talked of, this is a lawyer's prayer. A genuine lawyer, what was called a Khandani lawyer, a genuine, a true lawyer, this is what you would say. To win a point, I shall not lose my soul. Yes, sir, it is possible. And decency. It is possible never to be argumentative unnecessarily. You can win you with your wit and repartee, do justice to your case. You can make a judge see your point of view with your wisdom, with your logic, with your rationale. You don't have to fight with him. You don't have to browbeat him. It is possible. And this lawyer's prayer is what generations before us and our generation were brought up with. Today, I dare say, I won't say forsooth, it is unheard of. Most of the interns, when I asked them, they never heard of this lawyer's prayer. Now show me the third. I expected to do better. So then, Niccolo Machiavelli. So we've all heard of you're from the land of Patliputra, and you've heard you're from the land of the gentleman everyone knows. Mr. Sinha. Are you there, Mr. Sinha? What happened? Sound's gone? No. Oh. Mr. Rajiva Anand comes from the land of the gentleman I'm going to speak of. The land of Chanakya, the land of Kautilya. Everyone has heard of everyone's heard of Kautilya's Arthashastra, Chanakya Niti. But Niccolo Machiavelli is somebody who is the master of the art of diplomacy, governance, administration. And what he says, it's always been, because just as good morals Because just as good morals, if they are to be maintained, because just as good morals, if they are to be maintained, have need of the laws, so the laws, if they are to be observed, have need of good morals. Niccolo Machiavelli. This is it exactly, Mr. Sinha, what you were talking of, that if just as morals, good morals need, they are to be maintained, need the laws, so laws also do this.
भैया एक डिवाइस से लॉग आउट कर लीजिए वो आई डोंट नो व्हाई योर जेंटलमैन इज इंसिस्टिंग ऑन हैविंग यू लॉग्ड इन फ्रॉम टू डिवाइस कोई भी एक डिवाइस से लॉग आउट कर लीजिए
Sir, full lawful good in law means all that I spoke of. Our oath is such, our prayer is such, our destination is such. It is based purely upon ethics, morality, integrity. But today, are we there? Today, are we there? We are nowhere there. What do we do? Where do we start? Or where do we end? Mr. Eva Anand has given us a topic. It's like a hornet's nest. You go to hornet's nest. You have to live in the present circumstances. How do we improve? How do we make ethics, integrity, morality, integrity part of our existence? Lawful good. You can only think of the general good at your own cost if you are a good, your person good, or a good person. If you yourself are not a good person, how are you ever going to think of the good of the others? Mr. Pandey, what you spoke. Today we are virtually in a situation which is like we are in a quagmire. Daldal. We don't know where to go. Law is the last resort. But even in law, how do we make lawful good an integral part of the justice delivery system? It's worth pondering. This topic is of immense relevance, important. I'm far too old and antique to be able to do anything. It's young gentlemen and ladies like you who have to think and see how we deliver. We make lawful good an everyday existence in every man's life. Zena, you had said that socialism and communism is dead. Yes, perhaps. Perhaps it may rear its head again. May or may never happen. But then the point is capitalism, socialism, communism, whichever system do we have, it's the individual who has to become lawfully good. Once the individual becomes lawfully good, only then can you dispense the altruistic version or vision of thinking of others even at the cost of your own inconvenience. Please allow me to speak. When I was growing up, we are refugees in 1947. We were removed from now what is called Islamabad, Rawalpindi, Lahore. 13 of my family were killed on the train. We had suffered. Come back, restart again. But growing up, we found there was sympathy The elder brother treated the younger brother like his son, and the younger brother treated the elder brother like his father. The elder brother worked hard so that the younger brother could study and improve. Now that has disappeared. It's just disappeared. Of course, times change, situations change, realities change, needs change, visions change. The joint family system collapsed, the nuclear family system. We were less well off earlier. We may have physical, we may have pecuniary aggrandizement now, but are we happy? The husband's running here, the wife's running there all the time, but are we happy? That's the question. Happiness has eroded. What we have to look for as being lawfully good is, okay, even if you're nuclear families, at least the two of you and your one child, at least these three should learn how to live happily. If not together, the first start could be being civil to each other, being decent to each other. You may not agree. You may have dislikes. You may have animosities. You have an inimical relationship, but you can still be decent and civil to each other. At least that would lessen the grief and increase the happiness. So lawfully good, you can only be if you're intrinsically happy yourself. I cannot see a human being who's unhappy, who's stressed out all the time for all his needs. He's left his family behind, he doesn't have the family. And after being a nuclear family, just husband, wife, and a child, you're still not happy. And an unhappy person, how can he be so stressed out? How can he be even think of being lawfully good, to think of others? So first step possibly could be try to be civil, try to be decent, try to have good manners and amiable relationship, sort out everything amongst your kinsmen without having to fight, physical fights, abusive fights. Next step to move on, and yes, lawfully good. And when all that fails, what do we do? In Mr. Jiva Anand and Mr. Pandey allow, fall on the feet of Mr. Zena. Sir, yoga sikhaiye. Sir, yoga sikhaiye. Dhanyavad. Aapko bahut bahut dhanyavad.
If everything fails, hire a lawyer.
That is the thing we do.
My generation is almost extinct. Sir, I'll tell you, I've spoken about this earlier. I was a standing counsel for central government. I'm talking of 26th of May, 1980. Those days, there used to be just one or two standing counsel, very respected position, Attorney General, Solicitor General, standing counsel. Very, very respected position. I was handling a case. Opposed to me was that Venerable Mr. Fali S. Nariman. His son retired as a Supreme Court judge, went to Nariman. While the matter was being argued, the Chief Justice Prakash Nayan and the bench, Justice Safi, started passing an order against the government, staying the orders of the government. While the order was in the process, the stay was being passed. Two ladies, Sharta Grewal and Sarla Grewal, came puffing and puffing. And they whispered in my ears, "Sir, we have not signed the license. This is a fault license." I was on this side of the Chief Justice Court and Mr. Nariman was here. Mr. Nariman heard this. So can you believe it? He said, "My lord, I withdraw from this case." Chief Justice Prakash Nayan said, "No, we've already passed part of the order. We are not going to." He said, "No, my lord, I shall not represent a client who has forged the signatures. I shall not allow a perjured client, I shall not represent him." And he withdrew. Can you believe it today? That money would have been, the fee of those compared to this would not be less than 50, 60, 70 lakhs. He withdrew. And it's happened. There's another case that we had us being opposed by a standing council, all the top 8 of the country. Siddharth Shankar Ray, L.M. Singhvi, Manu Singhvi's father, Lal Narayan Sinha, Soli Swarabji, except Mr. Palkiwala, all were there. And the judge asked a question at the bar. And all these venerable gentlemen, and those days 64 crore matter, excise matter. 64 crore matter. Judge asked, what had happened? My student was Lakshmi Kumaram, one of the most distinguished excise and custom lawyers, the topmost lawyer of the excise and custom law of the country. He was an undersecretary that time, my student, and I didn't know very much about that. Was the first case I was handling there. He was guiding me. So when the judges asked me, on what basis do you say this? I said, my lord, the undersecretary is here, and I was asked to meet the joint secretary finance. Yesterday, I went to Rashtrapati Bhavan Finance, and they told these are my instructions. So they called Lakshmi Kaur. He said, is it correct? He said, yes, my lord. We went there. This is what the joint secretary has said. And all those lawyers, top lawyers, they did not dispute that. They're charging lakhs and lakhs of rupees. They did not dispute that. They said yes. The matter went in the government's case. Kapurthala House case, the residence of the Punjab governor. This was bought by Mr. Saksaria of the British Motor Car Company for 1,12,000, 10,000 rupees. But it was sold by the Secretary and State in Council. Huge, difficult. And it could not be sold because it was under the British system. It had to be the state property. Won the case, and today it's a residence of the Punjab Chief Minister, of the Punjab Governor when he comes to Delhi. There also, Diwan Jammi Das, who had been the Prime Minister to the Maharaja Patiala and Kapurthala, when summoned, the court asked them, they did speak the truth on oath. So these are all now not experiences, they are now fantasies, fantastic stories. These 3 wise men, young gentlemen, who did such a wonderful job in not being able to show my face, and if they showed my face, they could not show the oath, and if they showed the oath, they could not show my face. These fine gentlemen, brilliant gentlemen, they can't believe these things happening. So where do we start? Mr. Ajivanand, Mr. Pandey, Mr. Sinha, Mr. Tyagi, Mr. Vyas, and Mrs. Bagchi. Thank you very much for giving me this time to get it off my system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Every word of yours was really of great value for all of us. We were to have
I think,
Mr. Ratan Tata.
Vinayji, I think because likelihood Ratan Bhaiya may not be joining in from America. So, and Navin Bhaiya very sweetly, very warmly, very kindly nudged Atul Bhaiya quite a lot, you quite a lot, remembered you both quite a lot. So I think Atul Bhaiya must be given the privilege to take on the interactive session with Navin Bhaiya and make whatever minutes we have got left very, very interesting.
That will be too nice.
Atul Bhaiya, if you can take on the interactive session with Navin Bhaiya.
He's gone off, I think. Naveen.
No, he is there, very much there.
I can't see him. There he is.
He's there.
Yes, sir.
So,
Sir, I bow before your wisdom and your sagacity.
No, kuch nahi, sir. Nothing of that, sir.
Ask me too many
No, kuch nahi. Question is, what do we do? I mean, you have there's a legal system we talked about in the past where the people who were lawyers came from well-to-do backgrounds and therefore they had no motivation.
Yes, they were not expected to earn. They were not expected
to earn from the profession. And you know, from what you describe in the past, even in the middle, Soli Sorabji and all that, to now, there seems to be a big decline. So, what is your what do you think the legal profession should do, self-consciously on its own? I mean, how does it self-regulate itself? And what you say will apply to every other field, to media, to everybody. It'll apply. How do you self-regulate yourself to bring back some standards?
What I have seen at one time before my death-defying surgery, I was associated with 73 universities in different capacities, governing council, management. And I used to always tell them, don't scrounge on the salaries of your staff. Please hire the best staff. If you hire 2-3 top staffs and then don't save on anything else, you're charging lakhs of rupees. Jindal Law School charges 50 lakhs of that time, it was charging 48 lakhs for a 5-year course. I said, why do you scrounge on this? Have a good faculty, churn out brilliant people. What is happening is all these third-rate law colleges, they're paying lots of money to the authorities to get a license. Once they get a license, they have to recover that money. They have an infrastructure. So many colleges don't even give a degree to you, even if you don't attend a single law class. It's so painful. It's a sin. It's a crime. What do you do? There has to be some greater control. The judges have to, the Chief Justice, the 2 former Chief Justices were in the process of changing the rules to bring in the Bar Council, different IS officers, judges, IFS officers, administrative officers, so that there be a level of honesty and integrity in how you produce. Some of these student interns that have come there, they think, guy degree leke aage, the moment you have black coat, it's a thing. For many of them, wearing a black coat, being a lawyer is one purpose: thrash the cops. They want to show. I mean, it's so pathetically painful when you find some of these youngsters. Why? They don't have to do it. 4 of them, 5 of them going together, they have committed an offense, a traffic. The cops stop them. No, that's not our job. Our job is to talk to the officers, talk to them. Yes, the police officers are also going to be vice versa, rude, rough, arrogant, acting in illegal manner. Yes. When that fails, then you do it. But you don't have to be all the time. We never heard of this. No, a year and a half back, lawyers and cops fighting with each other, fisticuffs. Imagine the lawyers thrashing this. Now the latest incident of Patna, the family court judge summoned the superintendent of police, SP. He sent his SHO and a sub-inspector. They went there, they started beating the family court judge and showed him a rifle. The Patna High Court has taken suo moto notice, and the lawyers got together, thrashed the cops. Otherwise, the poor judge, this 4 days, 3.5, 4 days back. So we reached a stage where the answer is what? We still need gentlemen and ladies of your caliber to be able to bring things. The press, do you ever find on any TV channel anything except yelling at each other, abusing each other, nonsensical rhetoric, no sense. This way or that way for their money paid, no sense. Well, you can have a same debate in a decent way, because that affects the public. The leaders go and have tea and coffee and drinks together. The public are a friend. I have lost so many friends, very close friends. My own sister, if I praise a certain statesman of the country, they stop speaking to you. I said, I'm not speaking about it. I'm only speaking of some of the things. Listen to me. I'm not praising him. I'm not doing this. What? We've somehow lost. And this OTT platforms, this media that made us lose every semblance of respectability towards every institution. They teach us that you can't do anything right? No, there has to be some change, and that change has to come from you. I belong to antiquity. You're the young gentleman. You're the future. You have to do it. I saw a couple of smiles. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. So that is, I mean, like these faculties have to change. They have to improve. Teach them, bring about better level of students. Tell them, look, law is not just getting a black coat and then going and fighting with the cops and threatening everyone. I'm a lawyer. Parking in his place. If he says, I'm a lawyer. No, that's not it. Shouldn't be that. We have to be dignified. It's the most dignified, most noble, most laudable, most respected profession. We have to act like.
Anybody else has a question?
I think Reena can chip in because she is Reena.
I expect a less difficult question from you. I saw an amiable smile on your demeanor.
Yeah.
Shall I?
Yeah, please, let me have the honor.
First of all, thank you so much for giving us so much of insight and about the lawyer's oath and what is the lawyer's oath known as and all that. Because I did hear about it, I had read it somewhere, but I was not aware exactly what it is. First of all, thank you so much for giving that insight to me. In fact, because I myself am pursuing my postgraduate diploma in child right protection law from National Law College, Bangalore.
One of the finest colleges.
Yes. I'm doing it through the online mode because I am a promoter of online education. I believe in online education because today, whatever I am through my online education. And sir, there are so many incidents that I keep on seeing all around. There have been.
When I spoke of the classes, I didn't mean because they are physical classes. Why don't you attend those? Not because online. I'm sorry, I couldn't explain myself. I wasn't saying online is this thing. They have physical classes. They don't go to the classes.
They have physical classes. No, I'm not coming on that point because I'm aware what happens because I belong to Merit and I know Merit में किस तरह से law degrees ली जाती हैं. There are so many students who have not gone to the colleges even once, and they today I see them, they are lawyers.
Yes, they are lawyers. Yes.
And whereas if they go on the actual ground, they are just zeros. Just BA, LLB लगा लिया है आगे, and that's how they are going ahead. Sir, I would like to have some suggestions from you because I am sort of a social worker also working with women empowerment and focusing on overall child development. So there are instances when I have come across so many people, in fact, even ladies and maids who say कि हमसे वो वकील इतने पैसे ले रहा है, अभी दीदी हम कहाँ से देंगे, हम क्या करेंगे? So I talk to them, and just to get a court marriage done, lawyers, they have charged them around 15 to 20,000 rupees. Whereas both
court marriage.
For a court marriage, whereas both of them are majors. I had to go and talk to that lawyer कि मैंने कहा भाई यहाँ पे क्या कोई खदान खुदवा रहे हो तुम इनसे जो इतने पैसे ले रहे हो थोड़ा कम करो.
If you see, if there's a legal impairment, to their marriage, like their minor or their parents are opposed to it, or somebody's there, or somebody's filed objections, then of course he's required to do a work. If it's a simple marriage, there's no illegal impairment, no parents
exactly,
no former husband, no former wife. Then it could be at a lesser rate. But if there is, I mean, disputed fact, then you have to.
Disputed fact, nothing, sir, nothing. Because I don't go and help people like that. I first find out the fact, then I go and move out. And so there are so many cases, there are some cases where the government departments are involved. right? There is an income tax case going on. The income tax department has to give a big amount of refund to a family, wherein they say that we have lost the files.
But now income tax report, I mean, like then you
It's
see
an
the
old
proper
case.
remedy is
It's a
there.
very old case. It's a very old case.
Very old. It must, because the newer one, it's all everything computerized. I mean, losing files is almost out of question in the recent
Yes, sir.
thing.
Whereas the family has all the
And
orders from the appellate and everything, and they say that, okay, fine, we have lost the file. Until and unless we find the file, we cannot go ahead with it.
for this writ of mandamus from the high court
I think
would
on this,
suffice, because then
I'll
the
connect with you on phone, sir. On this, I'll connect with you on phone, and I will try and connect the family also with you. Because अगर किसी का भला होता है, उसमें हमारा क्या जाता है?
because then you see what happens is, if you normally what happens in a bank case or against a government office, they don't involve a particular individual. So what happens then, it's nobody's responsibility. But if you involve the person concerned that this file was available at such time, it was lost or misplaced or hidden or whatever, from this point, the officer on duty at that time, he has to penalize. Once you involve that, once you involve a particular officer, then the possibility of getting it is always there, because that officer's pension will be stopped, all his retirement benefits will be stopped. Then to sort out his own problems,
He will get
the
it
matter
out.
resolved.
He'll get it out. वही है
But-
सर, हमारा जो सिस्टम है वो ऐसा हो गया कि कहीं से भी कोई काम कराना है तो वो दबाना ही पड़ेगा.
दबाना ही पड़ेगा, वो फाइल दबाने वाला. अभी recent couple of years, 3 years, इतना ये with the computerization is almost to a large extent. I mean, that this problem of file नहीं मिल रही. That is the thing. When I was for DDA, what used to happen? I used to appear in court, tell the court file नहीं है. The clerk would say file नहीं है. Officer would say file नहीं है. The opposite side have the photocopy of the full file. And I, representing DD, I wouldn't have it. But the officer would पैसे दे के उसको करते थे सारे.
Naveen Bhaiya, if you can allow me, Atul
Dharam
Bhaiya, if you
Shankar.
can allow me, we have been joined by a fantastic gentleman from America. Ratin Nath Bhaiya has joined in, he has logged in. So,
Good.
Ratan Bhaiya, thank you very much. आप इतने सवेरे उठ के you have logged in. You know what you have to take on, kindly take on. वो रीना को आपके absence में she was kind enough to balance it. Ratan Bhaiya, all yours. Ratan Bhaiya, you are muted. You have to unmute yourself. Ratan Bhaiya, you have muted. रतन भैया यू आर म्यूटेड, अभी भी आप म्यूटेड हैं. आप अनम्यूट कीजिए, यू जस्ट अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ, और एल्स यू लॉग आउट एंड लॉग इन. आप लॉग आउट लॉग इन कीजिए, देन इट विल वर्क. कैन यू लॉग आउट एंड लॉग इन?
शीतल व्यास के नाम से हैं.
हाँ, शीतल व्यास के नाम से.
हाँ, यहाँ से मैं कोशिश कर रहा था लेकिन नहीं हो रहा.
रतन भैया, आपकी अगर माइक नहीं वर्क कर रही है, आप लॉग आउट कर लें और वापस लॉग इन कर रहे हैं, देन इट विल वर्क.
Is he able to hear, sir?
Then you have to text him.
नहीं, वो सुन पा रहे हैं कि नहीं?
He has written, my mic is not working, it seems.
Oh.
Though I am logged in.
माइक का इशू होगा.
माइक का इशू नहीं है, he is muted.
I can see he's
म्यूट तो
muted.
दिखा ही रहा है. म्यूट दिखा रहा है
So he's not able to figure out how to unmute himself.
because unless he unmutes himself, we can't say that mic is having problem.
Vinay ji, can you just send an open message on the chat box addressed to him?
So he's on an iPhone.
He's on an iPhone. आप विनय जी, आपको तो होस्ट फीचर है, होस्ट फीचर कैन अनम्यूट.
नहीं, मैंने यहाँ से ट्राई किया, नहीं हो रहा.
आपके वो होस्ट फीचर में अनम्यूट ऑल होता है, म्यूट ऑल एंड अनम्यूट ऑल होता है. एनीवे, करंटली तो ही इज लॉग्ड आउट. ही इज लॉग्ड इन. अब देखिए whether his thing works or not. He is just logged in. Yeah,
So
Ratan Bhaiya, can you hear?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
you can Ratan Bhaiya, you can address to Atul Bhaiya directly because आप ही दोनों को शुरू करना
No,
है.
you should address to Naveen ji. कौन?
हाँ, नवीन भैया आप हैं, आपका स्क्रीन नहीं दिख रहा है.
He's there.
Yeah.
I'm trying because of two computers.
हाँ, ठीक है. रतन भैया.
हाँ.
ये there, Naveen भैया is there. It is your.
So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So
आपका
actually
video.
I heard. Yeah,
if you can switch on your video, Ratan Bhaiya.
Yeah, I tried to. Yeah, you can see me now.
Working. Yeah.
Okay. So I heard most of the talk for the last hour or so, maybe more. And I thought it was kind of interesting because in some respects, the ethics perspective is different in the United States, and in other respects, it's the same. As a lawyer, I would say we have the duty to not mislead the court and to have complete loyalty to the client. But in some respects, the ethics aspect is different in the United States. It's more utilitarian and based more on empirical considerations. So one of the questions that a lawyer always faces is what to do, for example, if you're representing somebody who's accused of killing somebody, do you really defend such a person? In the US, the answer would be yes. You provide them with the best defense possible. And I've always considered the Indian Buddhist philosophy to be best suited for that, because in Buddhism, as you know, there is no such thing as an absolute right or wrong. In fact, as to ethics, on any issue, you are advised to not take a stand in terms of absolutes. And the reasoning is such that whatever is bad, doesn't matter how heinous or terrible the thing may be, it is also good for somebody. So for example, if you're paying a bribe, it's bad for you, but it's great for the guy who's getting the bribe. And that person is doing it because it is good for them. It is in their interest. So the issue then becomes, what is the source of the rules by which one may say that a bribe is wrong ethically? And there have been several answers. Kant, for example, went to religion or the state's laws. And I think that's where most people come down to. that whatever the legislative laws are, regulations are, the norms of society, they give you the guidelines as to what is right and what is wrong in a context. But by themselves, they are the only authority that's there. There is no absolute authority in deciding what's right or wrong. So that's why, for example, if you take a nation like India or United States or England, they're sovereigns. They can do no wrong. They do whatever they feel like, but they are sovereigns in the sense that they have complete impunity, at least in principle. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And the other thing that changes in the US is that it's very empirical based, like Cauchy's theorem, that everything goes to the person. So in any individual transaction, it doesn't matter which way it's decided. If you got harmed by something, it doesn't really matter, because in the big picture, the damages, if any, are paid to you. If they're excessive or not enough, in the big picture, it'll all balance out. Things will go to the person or entity that is best able to make use of it. And that's a very, both a warm-hearted and a cold-hearted approach. But it's almost Buddhist in nature again, that there's no absolute right or wrong. In the big picture, everything balances out. So I thought that was a different way of looking at things. Um, in India, I think the crisis at times is similar to that in the United States, and that is due to insufficient or laws, meaning their stated purpose is not what the laws actually achieve. So when you tell the public that this law is for your benefit, the dots are not connected between how does the law really get you there. And that is one of the duties I think lawyers have, to explain to people that is the law really doing it? How to analyze it? And I think that's an ethical duty, because they are trained to examine closely the language, the nuances, the evidence, what you can really see, what can you take into consideration, what things you ignore. And therefore, they have a special responsibility to society to bring that out. And okay, on the face of it, somebody looks guilty, but you may be jumping to a conclusion. Wait and see. Check the evidence out. Is it really beyond a reasonable doubt? Or is it just an impression you have? And so those sorts of things are also an ethical issue. So that was my 2 cents. What do you guys think about it?
Naveen sir?
Naveen Bhaiya is not there. Atul Bhaiya can respond.
Yeah. No, I mean, what you said is very interesting. And I can relate it more to the business world than the legal world. But this whole utilitarian theories and, Adam Smith kind of economic theories are being questioned. So, for example, Mr. What's his name? McKay, John McKay. He was the founder and CEO of Whole Foods, which was sold later on to Amazon. But for many years, he ran Whole Foods, and he said the following. He said, in business, what has happened is that there is singular focus on the shareholder, and all the other stakeholders are given the raw end of the stick, be it employees, be it suppliers, be it the local community, be it the environment. Everybody is being given the short end of the stick, while the shareholder, while the people who have put money into the business, everything runs for them. So he says that needs to change. He also said that the CEO has to be a more ethical person who can look at the big picture, and he needs to be a conscious leader. which again, there are a lot of parallels with the older Indian systems of business. But this is what he said, and he said that intrinsically, people who do business do it for two reasons. One is three reasons actually. One is self-fulfillment. I mean, they want to prove something to themselves. They have an idea. They want to express themselves. Is one, and the other is that they want to really do good. They want to employ people, make lives better. So that is the second principle. And the third principle is profit. To make money out of the business. And he says the economists following the utilitarian idea, the concepts, they have skewed it only towards the profit, and therefore there's need for balance. So there's a lot of debate going on around the points which you have made, but I think the utilitarian idea is being questioned, is what I have observed. Over to you.
Yeah, utilitarian idea comes in at least two flavors, maybe many more flavors.
Oh, yeah.
One is to maximize happiness for an individual, for an entity, but nobody knows how to measure utility or happiness. So in that sense, you can right away see there's a problem, that when you don't know how to measure something or evaluate it, or what it means to you is different than what it means, to me, then you cannot really pursue it. And that is true. If you have 1.3 billion people in a nation, you have 1.3 billion measures of happiness or utility. What is good for one person, it doesn't suit the other guy. And so that is always a conundrum. So that's why it really comes down to, when you're looking at the law, law is not telling you what a person is doing. Law usually comes into play when there's a dispute about what a person is doing. And that is when you really get into, should they be doing this? And for that, you need a source of law. And at least in a republic like India or the United States, the source of law is your legislative source, regulations, and social norms. There is no other source. It's not God-given. So that's where one gets stuck. But ethics is in basically pursuing the law as accepted by everyone in terms of legislatures, executive regulations, and then follow it as closely as you can, but don't mislead. That's pretty much, that's all of the legal ethics right there. Be loyal, don't mislead. In the US, for example, you cannot withhold legal advice and services even if the client doesn't pay. That's a separate dispute, a separate issue.
No, I again, coming back to because I know the corporate world, and over there, a lot of legal action has been taken to enforce ethics. So the Sarbanes-Oxley law, there was a time when accounts were being fudged, and there was this big case of this big energy company. So in response to that, the regulators in the US came up with the Sarbanes-Oxley method of accounting, which plugged the loopholes of false accounting, for example. The corporate governance has been given a lot of weightage, and there are very strict norms and laws, and CEOs have gotten in trouble. I personally know CEOs have lost their jobs because of corporate governance issues. So to a large extent, as you rightly say, the laws have fixed some of it. But that's a system which says, there's a law and you follow it. If you don't follow it, you will get a stick, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and that you have personal liability, meaning you are really interested in it, even if you are the chief.
Yes.
That's what Sarbanes-Oxley is about.
Exactly.
That CEOs used to get out of it saying, hey, I don't know what they were doing. They say, well, you got to know now. You can't get out of it.
And big guys have been caught, like Mr. Gupta
Yeah.
of McKinsey. He was put behind bars for
Yeah, but United
insider
States has
trading.
been that way
Hmm.
ahead in these areas.
It has been ahead.
Because
no two ways
because
about
it has been traditionally a place where, what do you call, people or the republic form of the government works. So whatever benefits people at large,
Hmm.
over time, that is what ends up coming up. And I think the same thing is true in India.
Hmm.
So in that sense, it's kind of interesting that they are very similar. They're just different trajectories. But in terms of ethics, it's more practical in the US. You want to see, is it really working or not?
Yeah.
If it's not working, they move on to something else. But that's not necessarily profit. It has to do with public welfare, I would say. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. I thought it was a pretty good session.
Vinayji, we are hitting the last ends. So you can move on to the next item by inviting Zena.
Yes, before that, we must thank Mr. Ratan for having spared his time, that too early this morning, and enrich us with his insights about law and regulations, both in India and in US. Thank you, Mr. Ratan. Now, coming closer, I would like to introduce Ms. Reena Prakash Tyagi. Ms. Reena Prakash Tyagi is a postgraduate trained from London College of Teachers and certified by CASHE, that is Council of Awards and Care, Health and Education, UK, in recognizing and supporting children with special education needs and learning disabilities. She is also certified to teach English language and grammar along with phonology. Reena conceptualized and ideated SEAS Global Institute at Dehradun to set up a benchmark in the current educational system. It happens to be the first fully virtual home school of our country. She firmly believes in the words of Ignacio Estrada, which goes like this: if a child does not learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way he learns. We feel very privileged to have an accomplished Stree Shakti with us to give the final touch to our event today. May I now welcome Ms. Reena Prakash Tyagi to propose vote of thanks to all the participants. Over to Ms. Reena.
Thank you so much, Vinay Bhaiya. Rajiv Bhaiya has been we are hardcore brother and sister. We fight like anything, and we are there for each other whenever we are required.
That is too good.
And earlier I was wondering what exactly Zana World is. But when I came to know the ideology behind it, when I came to know what exactly we will be doing, it sounded quite interesting to me, and I joined hands with everybody. So here I am in front of all of you. Listening to all of you has always been a pleasure. I have been in a few more meetings where Atul Bhaiya was there, and we had really some really good sessions. And I would thank everybody for being here, because it's not that only one person can make a change. हमारे हिंदी में कहावत है, अकेला चना कभी भार नहीं फूकता. तो हम लोगों को सबको, like all of us, we've come together for a cause to try and make this world a very different place for our future generations, which is really it's a very responsible task that we've taken, because all of us are aware what is going on is not normal. To bring things to normal, it's not possible so soon. But yes, somebody has to take the call, so why not us? Thank you everyone, whosoever is present here, for being there with us for this meeting, which was really quite informative. And yes, we did come to know exactly what law is. Somewhere there were some bulbs lighting up in my mind that all of you could see. I was smiling. Most of the time I was off, because I want to become a very calm and quiet listener. And because law has always been very closely linked with me. I have judges, lawyers, genuine judges and lawyers in my family. And yes, we need to bring a change in the law system also, which is somewhere or the other getting corrupted. But how? That is a question. So let's see what we can do, and we will definitely try and do something better. And thank you, Rajiv Bhaiya, for creating this platform. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks. Hearty thankful to everybody for coming here. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you, Rina. Thank you so much for showing your gratitude on behalf of Zena Global Family Foundation towards all the participants in general and to the role players in particular. Now the time has come to go for Zena Anthem. I will share the screen now.
सदस्य जीना के है जीना परिवार हमारा चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा हम सदस्य जीना के है जीना परिवार हमारा चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा कष्ट गरीबी दुख हरने का हम संकल्प उठाएं धरती को कुटुंब करने के लिए प्रयास बढ़ाएं कष्ट गरीबी दुख हरने का हम संकल्प उठाएं धरती को कुटुंब करने के लिए प्रयास बढ़ाएं हम सदस्य जीना के है जीना परिवार हमारा चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा सबको रोजी रोटी हो और सबको हो खुशहाली हो निर्बाध विचार भावना सदा सीखने वाली सबको रोजी रोटी हो और सबको हो खुशहाली हो निर्बाध विचार भावना सदा सीखने वाली हम सदस्य जीना के है जीना परिवार हमारा चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा दया क्षमा नैतिकता हो और हो सम्मान सभी का सबको यूं अपना माने के दिल ना दुखे किसी का दया क्षमा नैतिकता हो और हो सम्मान सभी का सबको यूं अपना माने के दिल ना दुखे किसी का हम सदस्य जीना के है जीना परिवार हमारा चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा सदस्य जीना के है जीना परिवार हमारा चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा
Well, the time never stops. It goes on and on. And now it shows that we have come close to the closer at this point. It was wonderful associating with such a galaxy of intellectuals, so much of discussions and so lovely presentations, so much of encouraging fulfillment has been in the air. We all had very great time here this evening, and we look forward for more and more sessions of this kind. All I can conclude is that let's all be lawful and good at the same time. let the equality and harmony prevail in our society. At this note, I would ask pardon for any of the slips or inconveniences caused inevitably. Thank you all once again, and take very good care of yourselves. Thanks. Jai Hind.